Have you ever looked into a mirror and felt like something was looking back at you, but it wasn't you? During a peaceful family getaway in Singapore, a teenage girl discovers that the mirror in their hotel room doesn't just reflect, it remembers. Strange noises, a missing toothbrush, and a reflection that doesn't quite follow her moves. But when a faceless woman in a housekeeper's uniform appears, scrubbing the same invisible stain over and over, the horror becomes impossible to ignore. What happened in that room years ago? And why is the mirror still waiting? Let's unravel this haunting mystery right now on Uncle, Hollow, and X. They weren't supposed to be staying there. It was a last-minute booking during Singapore's Vesak holiday, and everything decent was already taken. So when Meilin's family found a vacant room in a 5-story guest house near the coast, they took it, no questions asked. It wasn't luxurious, but it was good enough, her mother said. A few nights by the sea, just some time to unwind. But even before they reached the room, things felt off. The building looked forgotten by time. Its outer walls were stained by years of humidity, its corridors dim even in daylight. There was no elevator, just a wooden staircase that groaned with every step. The family, dragging heavy bags up 4 flights, joked nervously to break the silence. Then came the room. 6 tightly packed beds, a bathroom barely wider than a closet. The air was stale, tinged with mold and cleaning chemicals. But the thing Meilin noticed first, and couldn't stop noticing, was the mirror. It was far too big for such a small space. Mounted directly across from the bathroom door, the full-length mirror stretched nearly floor to ceiling. It faced the room like it was watching, not reflecting. Cold, still, silent. No one else seemed to care. Her grandmother unpacked quietly. Her father opened the windows. Her younger brother bounced on the bed. Meilin just stood there, eyes fixed on the mirror, heart thudding with a sense she couldn't explain. Something about that mirror wasn't right. Before we go any further, don't forget to leave a comment, subscribe to the channel, so I have the motivation to release stories every day for you. That night, the wind from the sea was loud enough to keep most people awake, but Meilin managed to drift off sometime after midnight until something pulled her back, a faint, rhythmic dripping. She sat up. At first, she thought it was the old plumbing. The whole place had creaked and groaned since they arrived, but the sound wasn't mechanical. It was wet, deliberate, drip, drip, drip. The bathroom door stood slightly ajar. Everyone else was asleep, snoring softly in their beds. Meilin slipped out from under the covers and pattered across the room, pushing the door open with the back of her hand. The tap wasn't running. She reached over and twisted it shut anyway, just to be sure. Then she noticed something else. Her toothbrush, the green one she always used, wasn't in her toiletry pouch. It was out on the sink, wet, with strands of black hair wrapped around the bristles. A sharp chill crawled down her back. She washed it under the faucet, rinsed it 3 times, then shoved it deep inside her pouch and zipped it shut. Maybe someone had accidentally used hers? It didn't make sense, but the alternative, that it had moved on its own, made even less. By morning, she'd convinced herself it was nothing, just a mix-up, jet lag. Maybe her brother had touched it by mistake. But when her grandmother went into the bathroom and came out frowning, the uneasy feeling returned. "There's something wrong with the mirror," she said. "It makes the room feel smaller, like it's pulling the walls in." Her father brushed it off. "It's just the size and the lighting. Don't overthink it." But Meilin was thinking about it, obsessing even. The mirror hadn't been dusty, but there was something strange about the way it reflected things, like the glass was a little too clean, almost liquid, like you could reach through it if you just pushed hard enough. She started avoiding it. She'd step into the bathroom sideways, head turned, refusing to let her eyes meet the glass. She'd close the door immediately after entering. Sometimes, though, she could swear the door opened wider behind her, not creaking, not swinging, just widening, like someone wanted a better view. That afternoon, she zipped her pouch shut again and pressed it deep into her backpack. No one was going to touch it now. She told herself she was being silly. It was just a mirror, just old pipes, just tired nerves. But that night, as she lay awake staring at the ceiling, she couldn't shake the thought. Why did the hair on her toothbrush look longer than hers? The hotel felt like it was watching, and Meilin wasn't sure she wanted to know what it was seeing. It was just a routine moment. The sun was still high outside, casting a slanted glow through the dusty window as Meilin stood in front of the mirror, brushing her hair. Her family was out exploring the hawker stalls nearby. She'd opted to stay behind, still uneasy from the night before. She moved the brush through her hair slowly, deliberately, trying to calm herself. The hotel was silent except for the ceiling fan's dull whir. But the stillness didn't soothe her. It felt expectant. Then she noticed something. She blinked, and her reflection didn't. For a moment, barely more than a second, Meilin stared at the mirror in frozen disbelief. Then, as if catching up, her reflection blinked too. She dropped the hairbrush. It clattered against the tile, loud and final. Her breath caught in her throat as she stepped back. Maybe it was her imagination, a trick of light. Maybe she blinked twice and only thought the first was real. But when she crouched to pick up the brush, she kept her eyes locked on the floor. She didn't dare look again. That night she told her mother, quietly, hesitantly. "It was probably the lighting," her mother said, squeezing her hand. "You're tired. You haven't been sleeping well." Meilin didn't argue. She couldn't. But something inside her refused to accept the explanation. The mirror didn't just reflect. It watched. It didn't mimic. It delayed. Like whatever was behind the glass had to process, decide, and respond. And then something worse happened. As she brushed her teeth later that night, eyes fixed firmly on the sink, never looking up, the door behind her creaked open. She froze. She'd closed it when she came in, she was sure. The window wasn't open, so there was no draft. Slowly, heart hammering, she glanced up. The mirror showed the door wide open. Behind her, the door was almost closed, just a few inches ajar. She whipped around. Nothing. No movement, no sound, but when she looked back at the mirror, the door was still wide open in the reflection. And in the far corner of the room, near the ceiling, something was different. A shadow. Thin and vertical, like the silhouette of someone watching from the crack. She turned again. Nothing. But when she reached forward and pushed the door shut, this time fully, clicking it into place, the mirror delayed again. It held the half-open door for an extra second before catching up. That night, she moved her bed closer to her grandmother's. She didn't sleep. The mirror wasn't broken, but it wasn't honest either. Something inside it was learning, slowly, how to be her. It started with a sound Meilin couldn't place. Late at night again. This time, she hadn't slept at all. Her body was tired, but her mind wouldn't shut off. Her thoughts circled the mirror like moths around a dim, flickering light. Then, faintly,
She heard it. A slow, dragging swish, followed by a rhythmic rub, fabric against tile, wet, repeating. She sat up, holding her breath. The room was dark, her family asleep in their beds. Only the glow from a nearby street lamp spilled through the curtains, just enough to cast soft shadows on the floor. Meilin turned toward the bathroom. The door was wide open. Inside, in the dimness, was a woman, crouched on the floor, facing away, scrubbing what looked like a pair of dark pants. Her motions were frantic, almost desperate. A small pool of water spread beneath her knees. The woman wore a faded uniform, gray with a pale blue collar, standard attire for housekeeping staff. Her long black hair was dripping, plastered to her back and shoulders, and even in the dark, Meilin could see it. A deep red stain on the side of her scalp, seeping into her collar. Meilin's mouth opened, but her voice barely came out. "Hello?" No response. The woman kept scrubbing harder, faster, like she was trying to erase something from the fabric that wouldn't come out. The air smelled sharp, chemical, bleach. Meilin stepped closer, almost involuntarily. "Are you all right?" she whispered. Still nothing. She reached for the light switch just outside the bathroom, hesitated, then flipped it on. The woman didn't flinch. She was still there, clearer now under the white fluorescent glow. Her hands moved like machines, wringing the fabric violently. Her knuckles were raw. Meilin noticed the pants were covered in something that looked darker than just dirt, something that smeared red when she twisted them. And then, at all once, the motions stopped. The woman straightened her back. She didn't turn. Instead, she slowly tilted her head to one side, as if listening. Meilin's skin prickled. Her body refused to move. Then, with a sudden jerk, the woman stood and turned around. But there was no face. Where eyes, nose, and mouth should have been, there was only a stretched blur. Skin pulled too tight, smooth like porcelain, as if the face had been wiped clean. Meilin stumbled backward, crashing into the dresser. The woman, or whatever she was, began walking forward. But when Meilin blinked, she was gone. The bathroom was empty. The floor was dry. The light flickered once, then steadied. Later, when her father came to check, there were no signs of anyone. No wet footprints, no damp clothes. But the air still smelled faintly of bleach and something else she couldn't name, like blood left in the rain.
Meilin avoided the mirror for most of the next day. She refused to look at it while brushing her teeth, washed her face with her eyes squeezed shut, and even pulled a towel over the glass when she changed clothes. But the discomfort didn't go away. In fact, it seemed to grow, like whatever was in that mirror didn't appreciate being ignored. That night, she woke up again. There was no sound this time. No dripping, no movement, just a weight, a heavy, unseen pressure, like someone sitting at the edge of her bed. But when she sat up, there was no one. She looked across the room. The bathroom door was open again, just like the night before. And the mirror, that cursed mirror, was perfectly positioned to catch the light from the hallway. She couldn't help it. She looked. And what she saw shattered her last thread of doubt. In the reflection, she was still lying down, but she wasn't anymore. She was sitting up, breathing fast, sweating.
Yet there, in the mirror, her body remained still, eyes closed, arms folded neatly over her stomach. Then slowly the reflection opened its eyes. Meilin's breath caught. She wanted to scream, but her throat clenched shut. Her real body trembled as the mirrored version turned its head, not to match her, but to stare directly at her. It smiled, just barely. Not a grin, not friendly, just acknowledgement. Meilin threw herself back onto the bed and pulled the covers over her head like she was 5 years old again. She whispered to herself over and over, "It's just a dream, just a dream, just a dream." But she didn't fall back asleep. And the next morning, she refused to say what had happened. She just asked her grandmother to switch beds. Later that day, while packing to go out, her grandmother caught something strange. The towel Meilin had hung over the mirror was back in the closet. No one remembered moving it. Her grandmother, curious, stood in front of the mirror. She stared at herself, wrinkles, short silver hair, the soft sadness in her eyes. She smiled a little, and the mirror didn't smile back. She blinked, once, twice, still nothing. Then, after a long pause, her reflection finally smiled. Delayed, hollow. Like it wasn't trying to reflect, it was trying to imitate. She stepped back. That night she told Meilin something that chilled her more than any ghost story. "When I called your name, your reflection didn't react. It just stared at me." The mirror wasn't showing who they were anymore. It was showing something else, something that had learned enough to pretend, but not enough to hide its hunger.
The family was planning to check out early. The night before had rattled them all, though none more than Meilin and her grandmother. Everyone agreed they needed to leave. The air in the room felt thicker with each hour, like the walls were holding their breath, waiting for something. While her father and brother went downstairs to talk to the front desk, Meilin's mother and grandmother stayed behind to pack. The mood was tense. No one spoke much. That's when the screaming started. Meilin had gone into the bathroom one last time to grab her shampoo. She'd avoided the mirror, moving quickly, eyes low. But just as she reached for her bottle near the sink, the bathroom light cut out. Not flickered, not dimmed, gone. The room plunged into darkness, and in the faint glow spilling in from the bedroom behind her, a figure began to form in the mirror. Meilin didn't need to look directly to know who it was. The same soaked uniform, the same dark, matted hair. But this time, Minhwa wasn't crouching or scrubbing. She stood tall, face expressionless, her blurred features somehow more defined now. Meilin froze. She couldn't move, couldn't scream. Then Minhwa lifted her arm and pressed her hand against the inside of the glass, palm first, like she was trying to push through. That's when the light came back on. Her mother had flipped the switch from outside the bathroom. "Meilin?" she called. The girl stumbled out, pale, eyes wide, unable to speak. She collapsed into her grandmother's arms, trembling. They didn't wait for the rest of the family to return. Within 10 minutes, they were packed. But just as her grandmother folded the last blanket at the foot of the bed, she found something that hadn't been there before. A square of white fabric, no larger than a dish towel, tucked beneath the mattress. It was clean, too clean, with edges that looked freshly hemmed. Embroidered in delicate red thread were the words, "Don't forget her. She never left." In the corner, a name, Minhwa. Her grandmother gasped, nearly dropping the cloth. Meilin's mother took one look and snatched it away,
stuffing it deep into her suitcase without a word. They didn't speak during the elevator ride down. They didn't speak while waiting for the taxi. But in the car, Meilin finally whispered, "She's still up there." Her grandmother didn't ask who. She just said, "I know." It wasn't just a haunting. It was a warning. And Menoir didn't want to be erased a second time.
They were almost gone. The taxi was waiting, bags already loaded, and the front desk clerk had handed back their deposit without so much as eye contact. No questions, no receipts, just a quick, almost nervous wave goodbye. But as Meilin stepped through the front entrance, an old man standing by the side gate caught her eye. He was in a faded security uniform. The badge on his chest was scratched out. He'd been there when they arrived, too, quiet, unsmiling, watching everything but saying nothing. Now he raised a hand, not in greeting but in signal, a beckon. Meilin hesitated. Her grandmother turned to ask what was wrong, but before she could stop her, she was already moving. She walked slowly toward the man, the sunlight filtering through the tree canopy, making his silhouette waver. He didn't smile. He didn't introduce himself. He simply said, "You saw her." Meilin froze. She didn't answer. He continued, "You saw Menghua." The name landed like a stone. "I tried to warn your family," he said, his voice dry, brittle. "Tried to tell the front desk to keep that floor closed, but no one listens to old men anymore." Meilin finally whispered, "Who was she?" He sighed. "She worked here 5 years ago. Young, polite, cleaned rooms better than anyone, never complained. One night she was assigned to the 3rd floor, room with a mirror across from the bathroom." Meilin felt her stomach twist. She didn't come back down. The guard looked away, eyes narrowing like he was watching something only he could see. "They said a guest complained about stains, sent her up with bleach to clean, but when she didn't return, they found the room empty. Just bleach on the floor and blood. A lot of blood. No body. No report. Just silence." Meilin felt the world shift beneath her feet. "No one was arrested?" she asked. "No one was even questioned," he said flatly. "Management paid the guest's stay, told us to forget her name, said she must have run away." He looked back at her. But she didn't run. She stayed. A pause. Then he added, quieter, almost tender, "She was the kind of soul that wanted to do her job right, even if she had to keep cleaning. Forever." Before Meilin could say anything, her mother called her name. The guard gave a small nod, then stepped back into the shadows by the gate, fading from view as if he'd never been there. Meilin rejoined her family. She didn't tell them what he said. She didn't need to. They already knew. Sometimes the truth doesn't scream. It just stands quietly in the corners, waiting for someone willing to listen.
The family returned home to their apartment in Bukatima, hoping to leave the horror behind. The sunlight through their own windows felt warmer, the air smelled cleaner, and the familiar creak of their hallway floorboards was almost comforting. For the first few nights, things were quiet. Meilin didn't talk much. She went straight to her room after dinner, didn't touch her phone, and avoided mirrors, even the tiny one in her pencil case. Her parents assumed it was just emotional fatigue. Her grandmother knew better. On the 4th night, it began again. The first nightmare was subtle. She dreamt she was back in the hotel room, same layout, same mirror, only this time she was alone. She walked toward the bathroom. The door creaked open by itself.
She didn't want to look inside, but her body moved without her consent. In the mirror stood Minhua, still wearing her cleaning uniform, only now her face wasn't blurred. It was Meilin's. Just wrong. The eyes were too wide, the smile too flat. The reflection waved at her, then raised a finger to its lips. Shh. Meilin woke up screaming. Her parents rushed in, but all she could do was cry into her grandmother's arms. The next day, her grandmother quietly took down the mirror in Meilin's bedroom. When her father asked why, she simply said, "It's better this way." But it didn't stop there. Her grandmother began noticing things, subtle, chilling. A cup of tea would be left half drunk, though no one had touched it. The bathroom light would turn off by itself, even with the switch in the on position. And sometimes, late at night, she'd hear whispering from Meilin's room. But when she checked, her granddaughter would be fast asleep. Then came the moment that broke her. One morning, she called out to Meilin from the kitchen, "Come help me fold the laundry, dear." She turned, expecting to see the girl walk in from the hallway. Instead, she saw her reflection. In the mirror across the room, Meilin stood in the doorway, silently staring. But the real Meilin wasn't there. The figure didn't blink, didn't move. Her grandmother gasped, and in that instant, the reflection blinked slowly, then vanished. She sat down, trembling, and whispered a prayer under her breath. That evening, she gathered the family. They took the embroidered cloth, the one with Minhua's name on it, and brought it to a small Buddhist temple tucked between the high-rises, one that still performed private cleansing rituals. The monk said nothing when he unwrapped the cloth. He only closed his eyes, pressed his palms together, and nodded once. After the ceremony, he handed it back to them in silence, now wrapped in red paper and string. That night, without warning, the full-length mirror in their hallway cracked down the middle. No one touched it, no one spoke, but Meilin, lying in bed, whispered into the dark, "Thank you." She wasn't sure who she was thanking or why, but she meant it. The mirror had followed her, but perhaps it was never just a mirror. Perhaps it was a doorway, and someone on the other side was simply waiting for the right face to open it again.
Life eventually moved on. School resumed, Meilin's parents returned to work, her brother filled the apartment with noise again, as if trying to drown out what had happened. But something in Meilin stayed quiet. Not scared, not anymore, just different. She no longer avoided mirrors, but she respected them. The full-length hallway mirror was replaced with a painting. No one objected. Even when they shopped for new decor, Meilin walked past the mirror section in every store without looking sideways. It became a quiet family agreement: no mirrors facing bathrooms ever again. The embroidered cloth stayed wrapped in red paper and placed high on a shelf in her grandmother's closet. No one touched it. But once, when Meilin was helping her reorganize linens, the package slid out and landed softly at her feet. She didn't open it. She just whispered, "I remember." And she swore. For just a second, she felt the air warm around her, as if someone was finally at peace. Years passed, but Meilin never forgot Minhua. Not her face, distorted or stolen, not the smell of bleach, not the way the mirror felt like it was watching, not the silence that carried a scream too tired to sound. As she grew older, she told the story to no one. Except once. Her best friend, late one night in college, asked her what she was most afraid of. Without thinking, Meilin answered, "Being forgotten by something that still remembers you." Her friend laughed, confused, thinking it was a riddle. Meilin didn't laugh. Some reflections aren't looking back at you. They're looking for something they lost. A name, a voice, a witness, and sometimes just someone willing to remember.
This story isn't just about a haunted mirror. It's about the traces people leave behind and the silence that follows when the world chooses to forget them. Min Hua, a young woman working an ordinary job, vanished in a place where she should have been safe. No investigation, no justice, only bleach on the floor and a name erased from the records. And yet her presence remained, not to terrify, but to be remembered. Sometimes we think of hauntings as punishments, but what if some spirits aren't angry? What if they're just lonely, clinging to the one place they were last seen, waiting for someone to say, "I remember you"? This story reminds us that being forgotten can be more terrifying than death itself. And for many, the scars of injustice are buried under routine, in hotels, offices, homes, where no one thinks to look twice. Meilin's family didn't bring darkness with them. They simply entered a room where darkness had been ignored for too long. And in doing so, they became witnesses. Not all ghosts need banishment. Some just need acknowledgement. If this story gave you chills, or maybe just made you think twice before looking into a mirror, then don't leave just yet. Tell us in the comments, have you ever experienced something strange with a mirror? Or stayed in a place that just didn't feel right? Let's talk about it. Your story might just inspire our next video. And if you haven't already, like this video, hit subscribe, and tap the bell icon so you won't miss what's coming next.